There exists in this world a multitude of souls who have not yet learned the sacred art of living in accordance with nature, who have not yet grasped that the only true freedom lies in mastering one's own mind, rather than attempting to master the minds of others. These are the manipulators, the deceivers, the architects of illusion who seek to bend reality to their will by distorting the perceptions of those around them. They are not evil in the absolute sense, for such a thing scarcely exists in the realm of human affairs, but rather they are broken vessels, fractured spirits who have learned no other way to navigate the treacherous waters of existence save through the exploitation of others' goodwill and trust. To understand them is not to excuse them, but to free yourself from their influence entirely. When you encounter such a person in your life, remember first and foremost the fundamental principle that Epictetus taught with unwavering clarity throughout his years of instruction. There exists a dichotomy at the very heart of human experience, a division so profound that all of wisdom flows from its recognition. There are things which are within your control, and there are things which are not. The manipulator operates entirely in the realm of that which is not within your control. Their words, their schemes, their attempts to twist your understanding of reality, their efforts to make you question your own judgment and perception, all of these belong to them, not to you. They are external phenomena, no different in essence from the weather that beats upon your door or the changing of the seasons. You would not take personally the coming of winter, nor would you feel wounded when the rain falls upon you as you walk through the streets. Why then do you allow yourself to be wounded by the actions of another human being who is as subject to their own nature and limitations as the clouds are subject to the winds? The answer lies in a fundamental confusion that plagues the majority of mankind, confusion that the manipulator exploits with practiced ease. We believe in our deepest heart that we require the approval, the validation, the fair treatment of others in order to be whole. We believe that when someone treats us poorly, lies to us, attempts to control us through guilt or fear or obligation, that something has been taken from us, that we have been diminished in some essential way. But this is an illusion, a shadow cast upon the wall of the cave, mistaken for reality itself. Nothing has been taken from you when you are manipulated except that which you freely give. Your peace of mind, your self-respect, your clarity of vision, these are yours absolutely. Unless you hand them over to another person and say, "Here, you may have these. You may determine whether I am worthy or unworthy, whether I am good or bad, whether I am strong or weak." Epictetus himself, who spent years of his early life in chains, who knew bondage in its most literal and physical form, understood this truth with a depth that few have matched in all the centuries since. He would say to his students, with that characteristic blend of gentleness and severity that marked his teaching, that the body may be constrained, but the mind remains free unless you yourself imprison it. The manipulator is attempting to place chains upon your mind, to make you doubt what you know to be true, to make you accept their version of events rather than the clear testimony of your own experience. They employ 1,000 subtle techniques, all designed to make you question yourself rather than questioning them. They will tell you that you are too sensitive when you object to their cruelty, that you are remembering incorrectly when you confront them with their lies, that you are being unreasonable when you refuse to accept treatment that you know to be unacceptable. This is the essence of what we now call gaslighting, though the Stoics would have simply called it deception aimed at the corruption of judgment. When you find yourself in the presence of such tactics, the first movement of your mind must be toward that which is within your control. You cannot control their behavior, their words, their intentions. You cannot make them acknowledge the truth, cannot force them to treat you with decency, cannot compel them to cease their manipulation through any amount of reasoning or pleading or anger. All such efforts are directed at that which lies beyond the sphere of your power, and are therefore doomed to failure and frustration before they even begin. What then can you control? You can control your own judgment of the situation. You can choose to see clearly rather than to be deceived. You can decide that your perception of reality is valid, that you are not mad, not overly sensitive, not unreasonable, but rather that you are a rational being observing another rational being who has chosen to act in an irrational and rational destructive manner, This clarity of judgment is your shield, your fortress, the rock upon which all the waves of manipulation will break themselves into harmless foam. The manipulator relies absolutely upon your willingness to doubt yourself, to prioritize harmony and peace over truth, to value the relationship more than you value your own integrity. They have learned, through long practice or through the unconscious wisdom that comes from observing what works and what does not, that most people would rather accept a distorted version of reality than face the discomfort of confrontation. The pain of recognizing that someone they trusted has betrayed that trust, the difficulty of standing firm in their own truth against someone who denies it with confidence and conviction. But you are not most people, or at least you need not be. You can choose differently. The choice begins with a simple recognition. I am responsible for my own mind and no one else. Not in the sense that you are to blame for being manipulated. For the manipulator bears full responsibility for their choices and actions, but in the sense that you are the guardian of your own thoughts, perceptions, and beliefs. When someone tells you that you are wrong about what you experienced, you can listen to their words, can consider whether perhaps you made an error in your initial judgment. And if upon reflection you determine that no, you did not err, that what you perceived was accurate, then you can set aside their denial as you would set aside any other falsehood that someone attempted to convince you to accept. You need not argue with them, need not convince them, need not even respond at all. You can simply hold to your truth in the quiet fortress of your own mind, knowing that their denial of reality does not alter reality itself. This is what Epictetus meant when he spoke of maintaining your prohairesis, your faculty of choice, in a state of alignment with nature and reason. Your prohairesis is that which makes you human, that which distinguishes you from the animals who are driven purely by instinct and appetite. It is your capacity to choose your response to any given situation, to decide what something means to you, determine your own values and judgments independent of external pressure. The manipulator is attacking your prohairesis, attempting to corrupt it, to make it serve their purposes rather than your own. They want you to choose to doubt yourself, to choose to accept their narrative, to choose to prioritize their comfort over your own clarity. But the choice remains yours always. They can no more force you to adopt their perspective than they can force the sun to stop shining, or the river to flow uphill. Consider for a moment the actual mechanics of manipulation, the way in which it operates upon the mind. The manipulator makes a statement, an assertion about reality that contradicts your own understanding. Perhaps they claim that an event you clearly remember never occurred. Perhaps they interpret your reasonable boundaries as unreasonable demands. Perhaps they characterize your normal emotional responses as excessive or inappropriate. In that moment, a fork appears in the road of your mind. You can take the path that leads towards self-doubt, beginning to wonder whether perhaps your memory is faulty, your boundaries are indeed unreasonable, your emotions truly are excessive. Or you can take the path that leads toward clear judgment, recognizing that what they are saying does not accord with reality as you have observed it, and therefore their statement is false, regardless of how confidently they assert it. Most of us, when first encountering manipulation, take the first path. We doubt ourselves before we doubt the other person, especially if that person is someone we love, someone we trust, someone whose approval we value. This is natural, even admirable in a sense, for it reflects a certain humility, a willingness to consider that we might be wrong. But the manipulator exploits this humility, transforms this virtue into a vulnerability, uses your own good qualities as weapons against you. They know that a person of integrity will question themselves before questioning others. And so, they deliberately put you in positions where you must choose between maintaining your integrity and maintaining your clarity of perception. This is a false choice, a trap, for true integrity requires that you see clearly rather than that you defer to others. Judgments about reality. The Stoic solution to this trap is radical in its simplicity. You must learn to be indifferent to the manipulator's opinion of you. Not indifferent in the sense of not caring about anything, how different, in the sense of being cold or cruel, but indifferent in the precise technical sense that Epictetus and his fellow Stoics use the term. An indifferent thing is something that has no bearing on your virtue, no impact on your character, no relevance to your true purpose as a rational and moral being. The weather is indifferent. The opinions of others are indifferent. Your reputation is indifferent. What matters, the only thing that truly matters, is whether you are living in accordance with reason and virtue, whether you are maintaining your integrity, whether you are being true to your own nature as a rational being. When the manipulator attempts to make you feel guilty for setting a boundary, they're trying to convince you that their discomfort is more important than your integrity. When they become angry because you refuse to accept their false narrative, they are trying to convince you that keeping them happy is more important than seeing clearly. When they withdraw their affection or approval in response to your refusal to be controlled, they are trying to convince you that their love is something you cannot live without, something worth sacrificing your own judgment to maintain. But if you understand that their opinions and feelings are indifference, that they have no power to diminish your worth or corrupt your character unless you grant them that power, then all of these tactics become as ineffective as trying to threaten a mountain by refusing to smile at it. This indifference is not achieved easily or quickly. It requires practice, constant vigilance, repeated reminders to yourself of what truly matters. You will feel the pull of the old patterns, the desire to be approved of, to be liked, to avoid conflict, to maintain peace even at the cost of truth. These feelings are natural. They are part of being human, and there is no shame in experiencing them. But you need not obey them. You can feel the desire for approval and yet choose to act in accordance with your own judgment, rather than in accordance with what will gain you that approval. You can feel the fear of confrontation and yet choose to speak the truth anyway. You can feel the longing for harmony and yet choose to accept discord rather than accept deception. Epictetus used the metaphor of a rock standing firm against the ocean's waves. The waves crash against the rock with tremendous force, again and again, endlessly. But the rock does not move. It does not argue with the waves, does not try to convince the ocean to stop, does not become angry at the water for behaving according to its nature. It simply stands unmoved, and in time the waves exhaust themselves against its surface. This is how you must be in the presence of manipulation. The manipulator will crash against you with their lies, their guilt trips, their anger, their wounded expressions, their elaborate justifications. And you will stand firm in your truth, not arguing, not defending, not explaining beyond what you choose to explain, simply being as you are, clear, certain, unmoved. This stance of immovability does not mean that you become hard or cruel. The rock does not hate the ocean. You need not hate the manipulator. Indeed, if you can achieve the perspective that the Stoics cultivated, you will come to see the manipulator with something closer to pity than to anger. For what must it be like to live as they do, to navigate the world through deception rather than through honesty, to be unable to form genuine connections with others because you are constantly calculating how to control them, to be so deeply insecure that you cannot allow anyone to see you as you truly are? The manipulator is a prisoner, trapped in a cell of their own making, and they are attempting to drag you into that cell with them because misery does indeed love company. Because if they can make you doubt your reality, then they need not face the painful truth of their own behavior. Marcus Aurelius, reflecting on those who had wronged him, would write in his private journals that we must remember that wrongdoers are acting out of ignorance, that they simply do not understand what is good and what is evil, what leads to true happiness and what leads to misery. He did not mean by this that we should excuse wrong behavior or allow ourselves to be abused, but rather that we should maintain a certain emotional distance from the wrongdoing, should not take it personally even when it is directed personally at us. The manipulator who lies to you is not really attacking you, not in any ultimate sense. They are attacking their own peace of mind, their own integrity, their own chance at genuine human connection. You are merely the unfortunate instrument through which they are carrying out their self-destruction. When you can see this clearly, something remarkable happens. The manipulation loses its power. The guilt trips that once would have sent you into spirals of self-doubt now simply revealed the manipulator's desperation. The anger that once would have made you scramble to appease now simply shows you how little control they actually have. The withdrawal of affection that once would have devastated you now simply demonstrates that what you thought was love was actually something closer to conditional approval. Something offered and retracted based on your compliance with their demands. You see the mechanisms of manipulation laid bare, and they are so much smaller and sadder than they appeared. When you are caught within them, this clarity allows you to respond rather than react. Reaction is unconscious, automatic, driven by emotion and habit. When you react to manipulation, you are playing the game on the manipulator's terms, accepting the frame they have set, operating within the reality they have attempted to create. Response, by contrast, is conscious, deliberate, aligned with your own values and judgment. When you respond to manipulation, you are acting from your center. It's from that still point within you that remains untouched by external chaos. Your response might be to calmly state a boundary and enforce it through action rather than through further argument. Your response might be to simply remove yourself from the conversation or the relationship entirely. Your response might be to acknowledge what the person has said without agreeing with it or defending yourself against it, thus refusing to engage with the false premise they are attempting to establish. Consider the specific tactic of guilt tripping. One of the most common and effective tools in the manipulator's arsenal. They will point out everything they have done for you, how much they have sacrificed, how little you appreciate them, how your reasonable boundary or your honest feedback is hurting them terribly. The guilt trip works by confusing two entirely separate categories of things: genuine obligation and manufactured obligation. You have a genuine obligation to treat people with basic decency and respect, to honor your actual commitments, to acknowledge when you have genuinely wronged someone. You do not have an obligation to sacrifice your well-being to spare someone else's feelings, to continue in a relationship that is harmful to you, to accept poor treatment in exchange for past kindness, or to allow someone to control you simply because they claim to love you. The manipulator deliberately blurs this distinction, attempting to make you feel that refusing to comply with their demands is equivalent to being cruel or ungrateful. But this is false reasoning, and you can see through it if you examine it clearly. If someone gives you a gift and then later demands that you repay them by accepting abuse, that was not a gift at all. It was an investment, a down payment on future control. True generosity asks nothing in return. True love respects boundaries. True sacrifice is undertaken freely and without expectation of repayment. When someone points to their past kindness as a reason why you should accept their present mistreatment, they are revealing that their kindness was never genuine, that it was always conditional, always part of a transaction that you never agreed to. Your response to this kind of guilt trip must be rooted in the recognition that you are not responsible for other people's emotional reactions to your boundaries. This is perhaps the hardest truth to accept because we are social creatures, because we are wired to care about others' feelings, because the idea that we might hurt someone's feelings even when we are acting reasonably and appropriately causes genuine distress. But there is a crucial difference between causing someone harm through cruelty or negligence, and causing someone discomfort by refusing to participate in your own mistreatment. The first is a failure of virtue and should be avoided. The second is an exercise of wisdom and should be embraced. When you set a boundary with a manipulative person, they will likely respond with hurt, anger, accusations of selfishness, or cruelty. This is not because you have genuinely harmed them, but because you have disrupted their ability to control you. They are not hurt because you are being cruel. They are hurt because their manipulation is not working. Your task is to remain clear about this distinction. To not allow their performance of injury to convince you that you are doing something wrong by refusing to be controlled. Remember that you cannot be responsible for maintaining another person's illusions about reality, another person's fantasies about their own behavior, another person's need to see themselves as always right and always the victim. The concept of emotional immunity that the Stoics cultivated is particularly relevant here. Epictetus taught that no one can hurt your feelings without your consent, that the feeling of being hurt comes not from the external action but from your judgment about that action. This can seem harsh, even victim-blaming when first encountered. Surely if someone insults you, lies about you, betrays you, they are the ones causing your pain, not you yourself. But look more carefully at the mechanism. The words they speak, the actions they take, these are external events. Your emotional response to these events is mediated entirely by your beliefs and judgments about them. If someone calls you a fool and you are secure in your own intelligence, their words have no power to wound you. You might recognize them as foolish for making such an inaccurate assessment, but you will not feel hurt. Where then does hurt come from? It comes from some belief you hold that makes their words seem significant. Perhaps you believe that their opinion of you matters, that they are in a position to judge you accurately, that being thought foolish is a terrible fate. Or perhaps, most painfully, you harbor some secret doubt about your own intelligence, some vulnerability that their words strike against. The hurt you feel is not caused by their attack, but by this pre-existing vulnerability meeting their attack. This is why the same words from different people affect us differently. An insult from someone we respect wounds us. An insult from someone we disdain barely registers. The words themselves have not changed. Only our judgment about the source has changed. Understanding this does not mean denying your feelings or pretending you are not hurt when you are. It means recognizing where the hurt comes from, and therefore where the healing must occur. You cannot control whether people will try to hurt you. You cannot stop manipulators from employing their tactics, but you can examine and revise the beliefs that make you vulnerable to those tactics. If you believe that you need others' approval to be worthwhile, then their withdrawal of approval will devastate you. If you know that your worth is intrinsic and not dependent on others' opinions, then their approval or disapproval becomes merely interesting. Information about them, rather than determining information about you. This work of examining and revising your beliefs is the heart of Stoic practice. And it is work that must be done repeatedly, daily, constantly. The mind defaults to its old patterns, its old vulnerabilities, its old confusions. You must remain vigilant, must catch yourself when you start to give away your power. Must remind yourself over and over of what is truly within your control and what is not. When you feel yourself becoming angry at the manipulator, pause and ask what belief is generating that anger. Perhaps it is the belief that they should not be acting this way, that the world should be fair, that people should treat each other with honesty and respect. These are beautiful ideals, but holding them as expectations about how the world must be will only cause you suffering. Better to hold them as goals. For your own behavior, while accepting that others will often fall short, the manipulator is acting according to their nature, their conditioning, their current level of understanding. They are doing what they believe will get them what they want. They are wrong, their methods are destructive, and you are fully justified in protecting yourself from them. But becoming angry at them for being what they are is as futile as becoming angry at winter for being cold. Accept what is, without accepting that it is acceptable. Respond to reality as it actually exists rather than as you wish it existed. The strategic use of silence is one of the most powerful tools you possess when dealing with manipulation. The manipulator relies on your engagement, your explanations, your justifications, your emotional reactions. They will say outrageous things, make absurd claims, attack you in ways designed to provoke a defensive response. And if you respond defensively, if you try to explain yourself, to justify your actions, to convince them that they are being unreasonable, you have already lost. You have accepted the premise that they are entitled to judge you, that their understanding matters, that you need to make them see reason. But remember, you cannot control their thoughts or perceptions. You can explain yourself until your voice grows hoarse, and they will not understand. Because they are choosing not to understand. Because understanding would require them to give up their position of control. Silence in the face of manipulation is not weakness. It is strength. It is the refusal to play a rigged game. It's the refusal to defend yourself against false accusations as if they were serious charges deserving of response. When the manipulator makes an outrageous claim about your behavior or motivations, you can simply look at them calmly, say nothing, and let the absurdity of their statement hang in the air between you. When they demand an explanation for your perfectly reasonable boundary, you can simply restate the boundary and refuse to justify it further. When they become emotional and accusatory, you can remain still and quiet. neither arguing nor apologizing, simply being present in your own truth without any need to convince them of it. This silence will frustrate the manipulator immensely because it denies them what they are seeking. Your reaction, your emotional energy, your participation in the drama they are trying to create. They will likely escalate, will try harder to provoke you, will perhaps even accuse you of being cold or cruel for not engaging with their distress. But hold firm. Remember that you are not responsible for managing their emotions, that their frustration at your boundaries is not your problem to solve, that your refusal to participate in manipulation is not cruelty, even if they frame it as such. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is not to be like your enemy. When dealing with manipulative people, this wisdom is particularly apt. They want you to become like them, to descend to their level, to engage in the same tactics of deception and control. When you maintain your integrity, when you refuse to manipulate back, when you simply stand firm in truth while they twist and dodge and lie, you demonstrate a strength that their approach can never match. They may win individual battles through their tactics, may temporarily get their way, may succeed in confusing others about what really happened, but in the ultimate sense, they are losing everything that matters, corrupting their own character, destroying their own peace of mind, ensuring their own long-term misery through short-term gains. You need not match their deception with your own. You need not fight fire with fire. You can fight fire with the water of truth and clarity and unwavering presence. Let them exhaust themselves against the rock of your centeredness. Let them spend their energy on tactics and schemes while you spend yours on maintaining your integrity. In the end, one of you will have peace and the other will not. And that peace is not determined by who wins the argument or who others believe or who gets their way in any particular situation. It is determined entirely by who maintains their connection to truth, to reality, to virtue. There will be times when this seems impossibly difficult, when every instinct you have is screaming at you to defend yourself, to prove that you are right, to make them acknowledge what they have done. In these moments, return to the fundamentals. What is within your control? Your own thoughts, judgments, and choices. What is outside your control? Everything else, including their thoughts, judgments, and choices. Where should your energy be directed? Toward that which you control. What happens when you direct energy toward that which you do not control? Frustration, anger, suffering, all of it pointless and self-inflicted. Epictetus compared the untrained mind to a passenger on a ship who, upon docking at a port, goes ashore to gather some herbs and shells, but constantly looks back to the ship in fear that the captain will call everyone back aboard. This passenger cannot enjoy the herbs and shells because they are constantly anxious about being left behind. Compare this to the wise person, who understands that the ship may leave at any time, who is prepared for that eventuality, who enjoys the herbs and shells fully while they are available, but is ready to drop them without regret the moment the captain calls. The manipulator is like those herbs and shells. You may have hoped for a good relationship with this person, may have invested time and energy and care, but if the price of keeping that relationship is your own peace of mind, your own clarity of perception, your own integrity, then it is a price too high to pay. Be prepared to let go. Be prepared to walk away if necessary. Be prepared to choose peace over chaos, truth over comfortable lies, your own well-being over someone else's endless need to control and dominate. This is not selfishness. This is wisdom. The Stoics understood that we have limited time and energy in this life, that we must be careful where we invest these precious resources. Investing them in trying to maintain a relationship with someone who is actively working to manipulate and control you is like pouring water into a vessel with a hole in the bottom. No matter how much you pour, it will never be full because the fundamental structure is flawed. Some relationships cannot be salvaged, should not be salvaged, because they are built on a foundation of deception rather than truth. This is a hard truth, one that our culture often resists. We are told that we should always give people another chance, should always try to work things out, should never give up on people we care about. But this advice assumes good faith on both sides, assumes that both parties are interested in truth and growth and mutual respect. When you are dealing with a manipulator, these assumptions do not hold. The manipulator is not interested in truth. They are interested in control. They are not interested in growth. They are interested in maintaining their current patterns. They are not interested in mutual respect. They are interested in your compliance. You can care about someone and still recognize that a relationship with them is not sustainable or healthy. You can wish them well while keeping them at a distance. You can hope that someday they will grow and change while not waiting around for that hypothetical future version of them to appear. The present moment is what is real, and in the present moment this person is engaging in behaviors that are harmful to you. Your responsibility is to respond to reality as it is, not as you wish it were. When you do choose to distance yourself from, or end a relationship with, a manipulative person, be prepared for them to escalate. The manipulator does not like to lose control, and your departure represents a loss of control. They may suddenly become everything you always wanted them to be, may promise to change, may apologize profusely, may seem to finally understand what they have been doing wrong. This is often just another manipulation tactic, one last attempt to draw you back in. Or they may go in the opposite direction, may become vicious and cruel, may try to punish you for leaving, may attempt to damage your reputation, or turn others against you. This too is manipulation, an attempt to make you regret your choice. To make leaving seem more painful than staying, hold steady through all of this. Remember that you are not responsible for their reaction to your boundaries. Their choices are theirs, not yours. If they choose to respond to your reasonable boundary by becoming cruel or vindictive, it reveals the truth of who they are and confirms that your decision to distance yourself was correct. If they choose to respond with dramatic promises to change, you can acknowledge this possibility while recognizing that real change takes time and consistent action. Not just words spoken in a moment of desperation to prevent you from leaving. The Stoics would tell you to wish them well, to hope that they do indeed change and grow, but not to sacrifice your own well-being on the altar of that hope. You can be compassionate from a distance. You can forgive, not in the sense of allowing them back into your life or pretending that what happened did not happen, but in the sense of releasing yourself from the burden of anger and resentment, of no longer letting them occupy space in your mind rent-free. Forgiveness of this kind is a gift you give yourself, not them. It is the final step in reclaiming your freedom. Freedom is ultimately what all of this is about. The manipulator seeks to take your freedom from you, to make you a puppet dancing on their strings, to ensure that your thoughts and choices and actions all serve their purposes rather than your own. The Stoic path is a path to freedom, but not freedom in the external sense of being able to do whatever you want without consequences. That kind of freedom is an illusion, for we are all constrained by nature, by society, by circumstance. True freedom is internal. It's the freedom to maintain your own mind in a state of clarity and virtue regardless of external circumstances. When Epictetus was a slave, he was freer than most free men because his mind was his own. When Marcus Aurelius was emperor, commanding the greatest power on earth, he was still ultimately just a man trying to live according to reason and virtue, no more free than Epictetus had been in his chains. The circumstances of life differ vastly from person to person, but the essential task remains the same: to maintain your faculty of choice in a state aligned with nature and reason. To see clearly, to judge rightly, to act with integrity. The manipulator cannot take this from you unless you allow it. They can make your life difficult, can create external consequences, can damage your reputation or your circumstances, but they cannot touch the essential core of who you are unless you give them permission to do so. This is your citadel, your inner fortress, and its walls are as strong as your commitment to truth and reason. No siege can breach those walls from the outside. They can only be breached from within by your own doubt, your own confusion, your own willingness to accept lies as truth. Stand guard at the gates of your citadel. Examine everything that seeks entry. When the manipulator comes with their false narratives, their guilt trips, their anger, and their accusations, do not let these things pass into your inner sanctum. Look at them clearly, recognize them for what they are, and turn them away. You need not be rude about it. need not engage in dramatic confrontations. You can simply say, quietly and firmly, "In the privacy of your own mind, this is not true and I do not accept it." Over time, this practice becomes easier. The first time you refuse to accept a manipulator's narrative, it feels terrifying, feels like you are being unreasonable or difficult. Feels like you must be wrong because they are so confident that they are right. But as you practice holding to your own truth, as you observe that the sky does not fall when you refuse to comply, as you notice that your life actually improves when you stop trying to manage someone else's emotions at the expense of your own integrity, the practice becomes more natural. You begin to trust yourself more. You begin to recognize manipulation more quickly. You begin to respond from your center rather than reacting from your wounds. This is the journey that Epictetus mapped out for his students. The journey from being controlled by externals to being self-directed, from being tossed about by every wind of opinion and emotion to being stable and centered regardless of circumstances. It is not an easy journey, and you will stumble along the way. There will be times when you forget everything you have learned, when you fall back into old patterns. When you allow yourself to be manipulated because it seems easier in the moment than standing firm. These are not failures. They are part of the process. What matters is that you recognize what has happened, that you return to your practice, that you do not use one stumble as an excuse to abandon the path entirely. Think of yourself as a student in the ancient Stoic school, sitting at the feet of Epictetus himself, listening as he explains again and again the simple truths that are so difficult to embody in practice. Some things are up to us, some things are not. Focus on what is up to us. That is the teaching, the entirety of it, and yet it contains the solution to every problem you will face with manipulative people. Their behavior is not up to you. Your response to their behavior is up to you. Their opinion of you is not up to you. Your opinion of yourself is up to you. Their attempts to control you are not up to you. Your decision about whether to allow yourself to be controlled is up to you.